Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. I am your host, Carmine of Red Team Review, and I'm joined here once again by the new Prince of Dorne himself, Preston Jacobs. Preston.
Woo! Yes, Quentin is alive.
Is that what that means? Because isn't it possible some other Dornish house?
Of course.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute, doesn't the title Prince imply that you're a descendant of Queen Nymeria, which is essentially House Martell. Not that there was a House Martell before Queen Nymeria came, but she married into the house, and therefore House Martell became the Nymeros house as well. So does the Prince of Dorne imply that, or do they just? I mean, it's the show, so they don't know, so they just be like, oh, it's Dane, whatever. So.
I love you, man. You're such a nerd. Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Thrones Podcast. Today we're going to be taking a look at Season 8, Episode 4, The Last of the Starks. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes, so consider checking us out on those platforms. And if you do check us out on iTunes, then please leave us a review. It does help out a lot. Also, leave your thoughts and questions and comments down below. We may cover them in the next episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
So, Preston, Episode 4, your thoughts?
It was kind of like two episodes in one. There was a lot of killing time in the first half, and then the second half was just go, 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 go. Shocker.
The killing time I can forgive because we just came off an entire episode that was entirely battle. So
yeah, no, I mean I get it. It was just two such drastically different speeds that it didn't feel like one cohesive episode. It felt like two distinct episodes.
Well, they did want to... Originally, Game of Thrones was supposed to be like 70 episodes, but HBO wanted to cut that in half, and, yeah. So they wanted a Season 8 and kind of extend the whole thing, and I guess this is what we're getting. I guess we're paying for what HBO wants, or the fandom, in a sense, also wanted the shows to go into Season 8, but we wanted Season 7 and 8 to have 10 episodes. They didn't want that.
Yeah.
So the episode... I get flack for quote-unquote being a show defender. I'm not, but even I can defend some of the stupid decisions in this episode because there were fucking plenty, and I didn't even have like my Preston goggles on. Like they were blatant as fuck, and we'll get into it. But go ahead.
So my wife comes home. My wife doesn't watch the show, has never read the books. She comes home and she's like, water cooler talk. She's like, somebody at work said, I don't understand why they don't put armor on dragons. Like, wasn't a dragon already killed? And I was like, okay, that's true. And then I was thinking about them burning all of the armor at the beginning of the episode.
Well, God damn it, why do you force me to defend this crap? I would argue that the reason they don't put armor on dragons is because I guess it would weigh them down.
Too heavy,
I guess it would weigh them down. Like having a normal person on top of that dragon, that's like nothing. That's like a flea. But like armor would actually have to weigh it down for it to be effective. Otherwise, you're just putting paper mache on it.
Yeah, I mean, in the book, there's no need because dragons have... their natural scales are very armored, and so the way to kill them is through the eye.
Doesn't George also... Someone tagged me in something that like George says like when a dragon is in flight, it's almost indestructible or something like that.
Oh, really?
I gotta go back and find it.
Whatever. It's on the one hand, it's not very realistic to ever be able to bullseye a dragon in the eye like the Dornish did in their wars. So in a sense there's a little more realism in trying to hit a dragon with a ballista, but the ballista stuff wasn't very realistic to start. But I suppose, shooting an arrow and hitting him in the eye, kind of like, the Bard, the archer from Lord of the Rings, that's impossible. I mean, come on, it's such a small target.
Do you think it would be more fair to have the tips of those ballistas tips of the bolts to be Valyrian steel? Do you think that would be a bit better?
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's a good idea. Did you come up with that yourself, or did you steal that?
I came up with that. What do you take me for? Some random Game of Thrones channel? No, of course not. I came up with that.
No, that's a brilliant idea.
Well, they could have just done that. I mean, dragon scales.
Had they had a throwaway line like that, like, oh, we tipped it with the sharpest of metals, Valyrian steel. That would have been something.
Did I come up with that myself?
That's a good idea.
I love you. Don't patronize me, you fuck. Let's get out of here. But I will say though, so this episode was better for you. Was it better than the last episode?
It was for me, but a lot of people really hate this one too. I still think that this episode was a train wreck, but episode 3 was such a disastrous train wreck and episode 2 was just such killing time that I did prefer this episode over episode 2 or 3, though it was still really freaking messy and all over the place.
I would argue this episode is slightly better than the last one, mainly because we could actually see everything, and which is weird because I would argue that last episode had less stupid things than this one. This one has just blatant stupid things. Last episode didn't have as many stupid things.
I mean, this episode is cartoonish. I mean, it's straight up cartoonish. Yeah.
Even I, with all these HBO checks in my room, I can't defend that. So, do you want to get into it now?
Sure.
So we start off the episode with the funeral, and this is. I love little details like this. When it comes to little details, that's my shit. And I did not see Alice Karstark there, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that the Karstarks are now the 4th extinct house right behind House Bolton, Umber, Mormont, and yeah.
Right. I mean, she was supposed to be defending Bran with Theon. They never showed her die, but I suppose it's like, well, which is worse? Like, her appearing suddenly and people being like, whoa, how is she alive? Or her just dying off screen with no mention. Mm-hmm. So it would have been nice to see her die, but I guess she died with Theon.
We also see a couple of people have survived. Everybody has scars on them. Ghost lost an ear.
Yeah. Ghost looked good. I mean, he looked good in the sense that I think he was animated well. I would have liked to have him around more. This injured poor direwolf. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bronzion Royce did not have any scars on him whatsoever.
Who knows where he was?
Yeah, like
the crypts.
I don't know. I want to say he rode off before the battle even began,
and then rode back. Mm-hmm. Like he's like, I'm gonna go 10 miles down the road, and then came back.
But no, the speech Jon gave was fine. I was cool with the whole funeral thing. Daenerys giving Jorah one last kiss. Everybody putting just burning them, even though there's kind of no need, but.
I mean, they clearly wanted some sort of visual. I mean, it looked fine. I was expecting something of a larger scope. I mean, if you're going to CGI pyres, just CGI a few more. It doesn't take that much work. But no, I mean, visually it was very striking. It was a little peculiar that they were burning everybody, but I don't know. Like maybe they were just like, just in case they animate again. Let's just make sure or something.
Just in case. And
just in case.
After the funeral, we go to the feast, and the feast is where, some good stuff happens. We get Tormund getting drunk, talking up a storm. Did you notice the two wildlings he was talking to is actually Dave and Dan?
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, the two guys that Tormund was like, I saw him ride a dragon. We all saw him. Like, the two wildlings he's talking to next to Davos, those were Dave and Dan.
Oh, God.
Go back and rewatch it again and pause it at the right moment. Not only will you see a Starbucks
I was too distracted by the coffee cup.
There you go. Apparently it wasn't even Starbucks. It was just like a random coffee cup that was just there because whatever. And Starbucks got so much promotion from it. They went back and apparently edited out the coffee cup. I haven't checked. But...
Yeah, I haven't checked, but yeah, it's apparently edited out now.
But we get some foreshadowing with Tormund saying who rides a dragon, a madman or a king, and Dany, she's just sitting there and feel isolated. This season has done one thing, and that is make me feel so fucking bad for this character.
And that's the weird thing is so there part of it is part of it's sexism. Part of it is the fact that, there are some weird aspects to the Dany character. But there's a lot of Dany hate out there, Just like there's a lot of Cat hate and a lot of Sansa hate and stuff like that. But there's a lot of Dany hate out there, a lot of Dany haters. And because of this whole Dany hate, there was this Mad Queen theory going around that wasn't really supported by anything in the book. Like, Dany hasn't gone mad or anywhere close to being mad. Mm-hmm. One could argue that she was a little off her rocker in A Storm of Swords, but then she came back and was pretty rational in A Dance with Dragons. And this is the first time where I see people going, how is Dany acting crazy? Like, why is everyone thinking she's crazy? Because she's not really acting crazy,
Right. Someone was telling me, like this is what they said to me. I'm reading here. And we're supposed to buy Dany is mad because she wants to use her superior force to end the war in one stroke.
Right, that she wants to use conventional warfare that everybody else uses. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else do they say? This is warfare in a brutal medieval world. Tywin sacked King's Landing completely unnecessarily. Aerys was going to burn the whole city out of nothing but spite after he already lost. Cersei blew up the set, a holy leader and a beloved queen, as well as hundreds, if not thousands, of innocents. And
But even before that, even before they gave a supposed reason for Dany to look crazy, which is, attacking the city she's supposed to attack, they tried to make her look crazy in that banquet scene. And they had Varys looking at her going, oh my God, she's crazy. And she wasn't doing anything.
She wasn't.
Yeah, they changed the music and did a close-up on her to try to make her look crazy, but she wasn't doing anything crazy. She was just sitting there looking at people.
And it's weird because the show is now making me defend this character that I've never really defended before. It's fucking weird because if you think about it, she has every right to be crazy. Everybody's whispering behind her. The moment she lost a dragon, she got pissed off and she wanted to go in there and just burn them all. And Tyrion's like, we can't. No. She just lost one of her major war assets, and you're still telling her to hold off the attack? Come on, bro. Right. Not only that, though, but she was right about wanting Jon to keep it secret, because the moment it's let out, everybody's now whispering we should, depose her and put in Jon Snow.
Or you could look at that banquet another way. Varys is looking at her like, oh my God, this woman's crazy. Her best friend for years, the person that traveled with her for years across Essos, died. Within a day. It hadn't been 24 hours. And the closest thing she has to family, her closest friend and confidant, is dead. I would say everyone gets a pass. Everyone gets a pass at that banquet because everyone lost somebody close to them. But the fact that Varys could be sitting at the banquet going, oh my God, that woman's off her rocker because she's staring at people. God, give her a break.
And I gotta say, though, and we are getting a little ahead of ourselves, but this is the point I made in my review video. When Missandei dies, you could argue that Missandei was Daenerys' only one true friend that wanted friendship from Daenerys and with nothing in return. If you think about it, Jorah, Dario, even Barristan to some extent wanted something from her before friendship. Jorah grew to admire and love her because, she turned out to be a great person even back in earlier seasons. Dario grew to love and admire her. But first, those guys wanted to fuck the hell out of her. Let's be clear.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that the two characters that really, truly believe in Dany are Grey Worm and Missandei.
Pretty much.
And, they're the true believers. They understand that, she's the breaker of chains. Mm-hmm. Everybody else, they're trying to use her and manipulate her and or fuck her, all of these things, but not them.
Even Barristan to some extent. Barristan wasn't, quitting his position as Kingsguard to go serve her. When he got let go and was offered a nice cushy retirement, he didn't want to. So the only thing he could do is go to Essos and try and live out his days as a knight like he wants to under the Targaryen banner. He wanted to use that name, the Targaryen name, to be of some use still.
Yeah, and for Barristan, it's about his own honor and crap like that. He was ready to follow Viserys. And even for the Dothraki, that was about some sort of religious connection, like seeing the supernatural force. But Missandei and Grey Worm, they followed Dany before any of that. You know, it's not like.
Well, Dany had to prove herself in a way. When Dany took out the Masters in Yunkai, was it Yunkai? No, Astapor. When she took out the Masters in Astapor, like, she showed why she is badass and why they should follow her. And eventually they did, but that grew into a friendship fairly quickly.
Yeah. Friendship and believing her cause. Mm-hmm. I mean, freeing the slaves and revolutionizing Slaver's Bay. I mean, they owe their lives. They owe their lives to her, and they believe in her. They don't think she's some supernatural entity. They don't think that she's, someone to fuck. They don't believe that she's a political tool to get back Casterly Rock or kill her sister or whatever Tyrion wants. You can't say enough good things about Missandei and Grey Worm. At least show Missandei and Grey Worm. There's a lot more mystery when it comes to book Missandei. We're not sure what she is. Grey Worm is pure in both book and show. Like, if there's one character you don't question, it's Grey Worm.
Well, even still, like, people love to bring out the Randall Tarley thing. Well, she burned this guy when she could have taken him prisoner. Yeah, but like I said, and once again, I hate saying this because I always get called like a feminist douche or whatever. I'm not gonna get into that again, but it is tough being a female in power in a medieval world where males are valued above all else, and males are generally looked at stronger. If she let those guys go, or even took them prisoner, she would kind of look as weak. Her word means a lot, and if you're not going to be willing to, bow down when she's giving you every chance in the book, then, she has to look strong, even in front of the other guys that bow down to her. She has to look strong, otherwise they're not going to respect her. And at the same time, Randall Tarley's an idiot. He fought for her father.
Right, and we shouldn't forget that the story opens with Ned executing a fairly innocent human being. And you could say, oh, he was a Night's Watch deserter. He deserved to die. Did he? He was scared to death. You could have listened to him. You could have brought him back to Castle Black and said, he's got a story to tell. Something happened. Give him a second chance. No, let's chop off his head. So Ned Stark is just as guilty, and yet no one sits around and says, "Oh, Ned Stark, the Mad Wolf." No one does that.
The Mad Wolf.
It's
the Maverick.
or Robb Stark, executing Karstark. No one ever says, "Oh, Robb Stark, insane." They might say, "Oh, that was careless and that was a stupid move, or that was too honor bound," but. They would never say, "Oh, insane."
That's true.
And I will say there is a lot of sexism when it comes to the word insanity. Insanity gets associated with women more than it does with men. Men are allowed to kind of every once in a while, like, lose their cool and be angry, and they might be called aggro, they may be called aggressive, but they're rarely called crazy. When a woman gets angry, it's like, oh, she's nuts. She's crazy. My crazy ex-girlfriend, So that label the label of crazy gets put on women a little more than men. And so, it's one of the reasons I never really liked the Mad Queen theory. Like, is there anything really supporting it in the book? Not much.
Just sprinkles here and there. Didn't you say before I don't even remember this part. Doesn't she say, like, don't awaken the dragon or something, which is what her brother used to say?
She does say that. Yeah, she does say that. And like I say, in Slaver's Bay, she does execute a lot of people in Astapor, and she castrates some people in Marine. And it's some serious stuff. And then George R. Martin kind of dials back from it. I think he perhaps regretted that he went so far with it in A Storm of Swords. Though, a lot might have to do with the supposed 5-year gap. So originally George R. Martin wanted a time jump.
Storm
of Swords. Yeah, he wanted to end A Storm of Swords And then, if you remember, A Storm of Swords ends with Dany in Power Marine. And he wanted to pick up the next story 5 years later. And he realized, like, when he was writing everything, the 5 year gap, as people call it, would have been helpful for a lot of reasons. They would have picked up with Arya 5 years in at the House of Black and White. You know, they would have picked up with Jon 5 years in as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. But it didn't work with other things. It didn't work with the Ironborn and the Dornish and them needing to get to Slaver's Bay. Like, there were, you know, he'd already killed Balon in A Storm of Swords. So if he wanted to have the Kingsmoot and people and the Ironborn heading to Slaver's Bay, or if he wanted to have the Dornish and their planning, it wouldn't have made sense to have a 5 year leap. And so that's why there's a lot of sitting around for characters in A Dance with Dragons. Jon has to kind of sit around and do nothing at the Wall. Dany has to sit around and do nothing in Marine for a period of time. And then, you know, you get this travel log for Tyrion because he didn't know what to do with him, you know, once they remove the 5 year gap. So you get a lot more of Arya's training and things like that.
A 5 year gap, I think, would be too much. Maybe a 5 to 10 month gap.
Oh yeah, I think it was a horrible idea to begin with. But he wanted it because his story was originally about. I mean, if you remember the original timeline that he wrote, you know, was about a love triangle between Tyrion, Jon, and Arya. So, and things like that.
Where Rob and Joffrey meet each other in battle.
Yeah, and lots of stuff like that, you know, would have gone on on his first draft. And he wanted the kids to grow up. He had made them so young, and then he wants them to grow up with a 5 year gap, and then they're ready to get married and have sex and things like that.
Right.
And now Arya's a little kid and stuck as a little kid in the book.
Well, let's go back to the episode for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the feast, Gendry gets up to go look for Arya, and right there, Daenerys naturalizes him and names him Lord of Storm's End. And one of the first few people that toast him is Davos of House Seaworth, whose house is loyal to the Baratheons of Storm's End, as well as Brienne of Tarth. House Tarth is also loyal to them, so they both toast him. And this is where a lot of people got kind of annoyed. Apparently, the show made an error here. He's not Gendry Rivers, he's Gendry Waters.
Right.
Someone in the comment section of my video was fighting me on that. You're fucking stupid, bro. He's Gendry Rivers, man. Actually, no. That's Riverland.
He's either Gendry Waters or Gendry Storm. But certainly not Gendry Rivers.
And was he even acknowledged? I know for a fact that Jon Arryn went out of his way to make sure some of Robert's bastards were taken care of. No. In the book, he's just Gendry because he doesn't know he's. So if you're low born, you're low born. You don't get a last name. It's only like, and it's funny the contradiction. It's a highborn bastard, you know, that you have to have in order to get the last name. You can't just be, you know, some random Joe. So Gendry is just Gendry. Well, originally it was Wyla, who was Jon's mom, you know, and she's lowborn, so he was still given the last name Snow.
Right, but Ned is highborn. So one of your parents has to be highborn.
Right.
You know, significant enough.
Or acknowledge them.
Yeah, to acknowledge perhaps might be the better word. But, you know, if you're lowborn, no one cares about you, so you just have a name. You're just Gendry. I mean, you know, that's how he is in the appendix. It's very different than Edric Storm, you know.
And throughout the feast, you know, we have some characters messing around. Tyrion, Jaime, Brienne, and Podrick are playing that drinking game. And one thing I noticed is that everybody's so fucking horny after this fight. But apparently, someone pointed out to me in the comment section of my video that those ladies walking around trying to get with Tormund and Podrick and trying to get with the Hound, those were Sansa's women. Sansa learned from Littlefinger on how to get information. And if you notice, when that woman was trying to get with the Hound and he buzzed her away, Sansa came over immediately and was trying to figure out what he planned on doing, trying to have a conversation with him. She learned all this from Littlefinger.
So you're saying that they're spies?
And that's how Littlefinger got information, you know, through brothels and whores. And that's what Sansa is kind of trying to do in the North. She learned from Littlefinger, and she also kind of learned from Cersei to never really trust anyone.
I mean, it's an interesting theory. So there is a little inconsistency in the scene that I didn't understand, because Tormund, some girl says I'm not scared of wildlings, and then Tormund goes off to have sex.
And then later he comes back and says, like, you know, I don't think they like me here.
Right, and you're like, dude, you just got laid, supposedly, or did you not get laid? You know, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily buy the spy explanation, because we know that Podrick had a three-way, and there's no reason for Pod to be having a three-way if these girls are spies.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just something someone pointed out to me, which is kind of clever. That's kind of what I want for the Sansa character, for her to come into her own.
I think that makes a much better story. I just don't think they did it.
Yeah, you just think it's wishful thinking on someone else's part.
I just think it's everybody gets laid, yeah, and that's it.
And the feast was cool. The one part that I was really kind of awkward with was Jaime and Brienne. I mean, it's been coming on for a long time, but I just didn't care. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it was odd. I mean, with the current writing, I don't know if there's the same sort of sexual tension and sexual chemistry that we saw in the earlier seasons. Mm-hmm. I just, you know, Jaime kind of walks in there and doesn't make eye contact and starts pouring the drinks, and he's just like, you have to drink. And then, you know, there's not, I guess I was expecting some longing stares or something.
Right.
You know?
And let's just knock these two characters out of the way. Later on, Jaime is a guest of the Lady of Winterfell on Brienne's I just love the side eye Sansa gives Brienne. And as we see throughout the weeks from Dany's retinue traveling from the north to Dragonstone, Jaime and Brienne get it on pretty regularly. And towards the end of the episode, we see Jaime going back to King's Landing. And he tries to give her an excuse that he always goes back to Cersei no matter what happens. But I guess the show was trying very hard to make you think that Jaime was just going to turn sides again. But he's really just going to go there to probably kill her. Yeah,
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to say. I mean, so book Jaime is definitely conflicted. Mm-hmm. I mean, he definitely, like, even though he rejects Cersei by burning the letter, he still thinks about going back to Cersei the next chapter. So, you know, it could be that show Jaime is conflicted as well. I mean, he's just on the fence still, I guess.
I feel like he's made his decision, and that he's going to go there to try to put a stop to her one way or another. I don't think, maybe he won't kill her, because it feels like that honor is going to go to Arya. But, no, I
think the problem, I think a lot of people had a problem with Jaime, you know, doing a 360, because they put a whole bunch of faith in this redemption arc story. And the show really did, you know, push the redemption arc thing. Mm-hmm. Like you know, he's going north to fight this noble battle, and, you know, he's being all chummy with Tyrion, and he's getting with Brienne.
Yeah, it sounds like he's already made his decision.
Yeah. Perhaps if they had spent a little more we can't see inside his brain, so perhaps if they had a little more time, you know, of him, you know, talking with Tyrion about, you know, I do still love Cersei or something, or sometimes I think about going back to her or something, you know, a little more hint of that, rather than it just being all at once.
Well, I felt the show did like a very awful job of trying to make us trying to make it seem like Jaime's going to go back to her in general to be by her side. No, he's done. I feel like he's done with Cersei. But that night we also get a conversation between Jon and Dany, and I really like that scene between them. It was one of the better scenes between Jon and Dany I think I've seen so far, where she's trying to desperately get him to, like, keep his mouth shut.
I mean, it's true. We're all still surprised that they're not talking about marriage. I mean, thank goodness Tyrion finally brings it up. Mm-hmm. It's rejected for stupid reasons, but
wait, why is it rejected again?
Varys is convinced that the North wouldn't accept an aunt-nephew marriage, and he thinks that she would just bend him to her will, and she would never accept co-rule.
Does the North really have any men left over to fucking complain about it? Like, let's just think about it like that.
Well, that's the one thing. Is like, come on, they accepted Ramsay Snow as their lord, you know, like, come on.
And even if the truth was put out about Jon, he's still half Stark, so at least there's a Stark on the throne.
Right. Not to mention, historically, there's never ever been a Lady of Winterfell, and there currently is. So, you know, there's nobody left to complain, and they're accepting a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. So why not? Why not? You know, it's Jon. You know, especially if you find out he's a Targaryen and that he rides a dragon, and you know, and he came back from the dead, and he defeated the Night King. I mean, pretty much at that point, Jon Snow can do whatever he wants. I mean, he could marry himself, and the North would be like, fine. You know, he could marry ghosts, and everybody would be like, he destroyed the Night King. Just let him. You know.
Well, Varys said it himself. Like, Jon is a war hero. Maybe not in the other realms, but he is definitely a war hero in the North. Whatever he did, yeah. I mean, what were they going to do? They're going to challenge the guy who came back and fought the Night King twice, rides a dragon. I mean,
Varys' argument is horrible.
It really is.
If it were the book, I'd be like, oh, he's up to something. He's trying to manipulate Tyrion, but it's the show, and I'm just like, oh, he's an idiot. You know, like, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any, like, his arguments are horrible.
But and Dany has a very good point. Once again, the show is making me really defend her. Like, the show is trying very hard to make her look desperate and petty and crazy, but it's just coming off kind of flat for me. She has a very good point. In Westeros, it is the men who rule over, and women are usually cast aside when it comes to these types of positions. She has a good point, and all he has to do is keep his fucking mouth shut. And then in the very next scene, he's telling Sansa and Arya. Well, to be fair, Bran is telling it. Yeah, like, the very next scene, like, bro, just shut the fuck up. You don't have to say nothing. Just
right. And it doesn't. And I went back and I listened to the transition of argument and how it got there, and it was horrible because it's like we don't like Dany, and he's like, well, why? And he's like, she's not one of us, and he's like, well, if you only make friends with Starks, like, you're not gonna have too many friends, and they're like, we don't need friends, and you're like, what like, and then he's like, we're the last of the Starks, and then he's like, there's something I need to tell you. And it's like, whoa. They just said that they hate Dany for no reason. And now you want to give them, like, information that can harm her? It was boneheaded.
Not to mention, actually, I'm wrong. This is not the very next scene. The next scene is them doing the war room plans. And then Jon sticks up for Dany. And, you know, like, Sansa's like, well, everybody's exhausted. And Jon's like, well, no, we're going to keep to our commitment. He's defending Dany, and then in the next scene, he does something that specifically harms her in a way, if it got out, if one of them blabbed. Yeah. Like, I feel like Arya doesn't give a fuck, but Sansa, he knows Sansa doesn't like Dany.
And it's weird that there's the three of them, because it makes it look like, you know, Bran, Arya, and Sansa got together, and we all decided we didn't like Dany. You know, which doesn't make sense on the Bran part. Like, you know, did they just roll him out there for some reason? Like, how is he part of the conversation?
Well, they're having a family meeting, and even though he's part robot now, he's still family, I guess. So, but what Arya said, I have to kind of defend what Arya said, because it speaks to the northern. I don't want to call them naive, but it speaks to just how. You've been. I'm trying not to insult certain people here, but you've been to certain parts of the U.S. where, like, they're not trusting of outsiders. It's like, you know, they're only trusting of their own. It's mostly places in the South where they don't like anybody from, like, any other state. They just you know hold true to their own. The North is kind of like that. They're way more closed off, and they're way more, you know.
I'd say I'm gonna insult the state. I'd say like people from Montana, they have a problem with outsiders.
Montana. I was gonna say Tennessee. I've had that problem in Tennessee, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, Montana's it's a beautiful state, but when I went there, I used to go camping there a few times, and it's funny because you roll into town and people are like, you're just in some shop and some dude comes up to me and he's like, you're not here to buy fishing license, are you? And I was like, well, I don't know. No, I'm just buying stuff in this shop, It was very, very weird. And it's funny because my brother-in-law is from Montana. And I asked him about that and he's like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, we're very local and it's not exactly a place where you welcome people in and have them over for dinner. But I would say that there's some places in the South that are very welcoming. I think it just all depends where.
Right. Well, it's that northern mentality, and we see it on display here. The North has always kept to themselves. They're super huge, and they could definitely make some waves. But throughout history, they never really have, if you've noticed. Like, they've always kept to themselves. They've always done their own thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes sense in that the North has their own religion. They're geographically isolated. They have a very different situation with population density, very different weather. I mean, there's a lot to separate the North culturally from the rest of the Seven Kingdoms.
And whenever any conflicts start in the North, it gets ended in the North by Northern people. I mean, there have been multiple times a king beyond the Wall has formed, and Stark forces, together with the Wall, have held them back or fought them off.
Right. Now, of course, all of this falls apart when we start thinking that actually the army is mostly wildlings and Vale Lords. But assuming that they've all suddenly been transformed into Northerners, yeah, that would make sense.
But no, I just thought Jon was a douche for going right in there and telling Sansa, and he is still part Stark. He really is. Like, Lyanna was a Stark, so I don't understand where they're coming from. Like, is he really holding his father's blood more above his mother?
Yeah, I mean, it all doesn't really make much sense.
They really are the last of the Starks. He is part Stark.
Yeah.
He may not be part Ned Stark, but he is part Stark.
Right. But are they all buying into the sexism? Who cares about Lyanna? Yeah.
And we glossed over one scene during the night of the feast with Arya and Gendry. Do you have anything to say about that? I just find it hilarious. Someone in my comment section said, truly his father's son, the moment he becomes a full-fledged Baratheon, he's rejected by a Stark girl.
That's pretty funny. No, I mean, it was obviously a little anachronistic, but, Gendry was insane, but of course...
he's in love.
He's in love, and people that aren't very experienced with relationships can do crazy things like that, and Arya is like no other woman, so he's probably not used to that situation. Something happened that really got him excited, and he was. Once he became a lord, he was probably in his head he's like, oh my god, this is perfect, I'm a lord, she's a lady, everything fits together,
And I will say, to close out the northern stuff, the war room scene, we had a lot of interesting information there that I feel as though is not being used. There's a new Prince of Dorne, whoever that is. It could be another Dornish house, it could be a distant Martell cousin or whatever. But we should start seeing, many of the major lords who are still left alive, like Edmure Tully, Sweet Robin. We should start seeing, the new Prince of Dorne. Yara Greyjoy retook the Iron Islands. Great, with your skeleton crew. But all it takes is Euron to come back and fuck up everything you have again. The only reason he's not is because Cersei needs him in Blackwater Bay to hold off against Dany.
Yeah.
So... It's like a weird position. The Seven Kingdoms, we're not really seeing much of the Seven. We're just seeing three.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, because one argument that I saw somebody make was when Dany said, "Oh, my foes are getting stronger," and then somebody's like, "Wait, they just said that she got the Dornish and the Iron Isles back. It sounds like she's getting strong. It sounds like Dany's getting stronger." But then again, Dany proved to be correct, as Cersei had spent the time building all this new technology and getting the Golden Company. So I would say that, no, Cersei is getting stronger. more time, more ballistas, right? And who knows?
And let's close out the northern stuff as well. So we say goodbye to Tormund, and he's gonna take his people back through Castle Black, back up north. Now I understand they were trying to leave, the northern area because of the White Walkers. That threat is over. Jon gave them the gift so they could farm because Mance Rayder wanted a better life for his people. They're gonna go back to a frozen wasteland.
Well, he did say that he would go after the winter snows have passed. And so I made the joke, in like 5 years. So he might be chilling. I don't know where they're chilling. I guess chilling in the new gift or something. But, he's... And then I started weighing it. I was like, okay, well, Tormund, he could have probably stuck around and maybe been given a lordship. But then again, if he goes north of the Wall, that entire area is depopulated. He controls... He controls something the size of a continent, It's
something the
huge
size of a
area.
continent that's a frozen wasteland. Like I don't know how it would feel if someone gave me control of the desert.
You're right. You're right that in the show they made North of the Wall much more of a frozen wasteland than it is in the book. They go north of the Wall and it's frickin' tundra, and you're like, whoa. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I don't know how anyone lives up here at all. But really, there should be areas with trees and wilderness and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, of course, when the snow melts, but it's still like a frozen wasteland for a good chunk of it. Let's be clear. And they could be given the gift to farm. Not only that, though, but if you think about it, serving House Lannister is definitely the best way to go. Cersei is giving Bronn fucking River Run for just assassinating 2 people. Joffrey gave the city watch commander guy Harrenhal. Like these they're being rewarded every other minute for doing like basic stuff. Jon doesn't even offer to give Tormund a castle or anything at all, actually. And there are castles to populate.
I mean, you're right. There's plenty of castles to populate. Tormund did so much for him. So much. I mean, he fought he fought both the Battle of the Bastards, bringing in wildling forces, and then at the against the others, against the White Walkers. I mean, he's owed a lot. Yeah,
he's fought 3 major conflicts: the Battle of Hardhome, the Battle of the Bastards, and he's also fought the Battle of Winterfell. And he survived all 3 major battles, both of which...
He also fought Castle Black, though, on the other side.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm talking about with Jon. So, yeah. All 3 battles were a losing battle.
With and for Jon. Yeah.
It was all a losing battle. So, and he still came out on top. He survived through everything. The motherfucker should be given at least 2 castles. That's all I'm saying.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, even Sam should probably be given something if he doesn't already have
Hornhill.
Everybody, really. I mean, there's so few Northerners and so much land that
right.
It's like you get a castle, you get laid, you get laid. Everybody's getting castles and getting laid in the north is what should be going on.
You could argue that it would be like a major slap in the face to the Northerners, because they're known to history. They know exactly what the wildlings are, and if what castle is he going to give them? Like Carhold, Last Hearth. Those are the 2 main northern strongholds that have to deal with wildlings. If Jon gave Tormund Carhold or Last Hearth, I mean, not only would he have to redecorate, but he would also have to contend with the rest of the Northerners who are alive that have contempt for him.
Well, I mean, if you want, I would put him on Bear Island. Give him Bear Island, and then they're just kind of off with themselves.
True. Or Skagos. Skagos hasn't really made much of an appearance. For all we know, it could be like deserted land.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got the Dreadfort. I mean, so many. Carhold.
See, the Dreadfort is the only castle that I want to know what happened to. Bolton Lands, I want to know what happens to Bolton Lands. Like right. If I was on the writing team, I would have Sansa purposely go out of her way to destroy the Dreadfort and like just sprinkle salt all over the place so nothing grows as a monument to what happened. Kind of like what Tywin did with Castamere, with House Rain.
And then by the way, it's funny. You know that salting fields is not really a thing.
Oh no. Where nothing grows?
I mean, salt washes away after like one rain. I mean, you can salt a field. You can salt a field and, maybe the crops will die. And then it's going to rain, and then the salt will wash away, and then everything will start growing.
You know what I mean, though. You know what I mean.
No, I do. I do. It's like the old myth of, like, Carthage, and they even use it in Ice and Fire, but it doesn't make any sense. They talk about how, like, they burned and left all this ash in the, in Slaver's Bay, and so nothing was able to grow anymore. And you're like, well, ash is a fertilizer. Why would everything stop growing? Like, so, whatever. But but yeah, there's a lot of land up there. Plus, like, House Glover kind of can also be punished for not showing up.
It's true. Someone told me Lord Glover was in the feast hall. I didn't see him, but that was a ballsy move on Lord Glover's part. I would give this episode a 10 out of 10 simply because this is probably the last appearance of fucking Sam and Gilly, and I'm so goddamn sick of these two. So fucking sick of these two.
What were they doing? Like, what's their future?
I don't know. What about Heartsbane?
They're not heading south.
Did Sam have Heartsbane with him?
I mean, I hope they didn't burn it with Jorah.
Oh god, that'd be so fucking dumb. It'd be so stupid. I'm trying to look for it now. I'm trying to look for it right now, real quick.
Like, is it on his belt?
Was it on his belts? And I thought they were going back to Hornhill.
If they were, they'd be going the same way as Jon. So why would they be saying goodbye? Maybe they're going back up to Craster's Keep. Maybe Gilly wants to go home.
God, I fucking hope they go back to Craster's Keep and get killed by a polar bear. Anyways, we also see Jon doing the biggest dick move ever. Not even petting Ghost before he goes. Like, you could spare the CGI budget for that.
It's horrible. It's horrible. You're my best friend, Sam. Immediately look over at Ghost and then don't even pet him. Oh God. It just doesn't. It's just so bad. It's like you have he's supposed to have a telepathic connection with this wolf.
Not in the show.
Yeah, but still.
Not to mention, like, the whole, like, goodbyes for Tormund, Gilly, Sam, and Ghost is basically the show trying to get these people out of the way as much as possible so they could focus the majority of the budget on the last 2 episodes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So. Also,
yeah, it was essentially goodbyes. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see Sam and Gilly ever again.
I mean, we'll probably see Sam again. I just hope not fucking Gilly. If they have a epilogue, we'll probably see Sam and Gilly raising their second kid.
I mean, okay, we might see Sam because Bran needs somebody to freaking exposit to, right? Like, who's he gonna talk to?
The last scene of Game of Thrones will probably be a Bran scene. Isn't the first opening scene of Game of Thrones, besides the Rangers getting fucked up, isn't it a Bran scene?
Yeah, it's a Bran chapter. But it's actually the first chapter George R. R. Martin wrote.
Right.
It was Bran 1.
So, it might be we might end it with Bran, maybe, telling us what happens after the final battle.
Yeah. Oh, did I tell you I had a dream last night? And I swear... The dream was Arya stabs... This is how nerdy I am. I've been starting to fucking dream about Game of Thrones. Arya stabs Cersei with the same knife that she killed the Night King with, and she thinks she's dead, and so she leaves. And then Cersei opens her eyes, and they're blue, and she becomes a White Walker. Isn't that a horrible thing? Like, I don't know why that vividly came to mind, or in this dream.
You can't see me right now, but I'm glaring at you. We both know what happens when you make these premonitions. They come true. You better shut your mouth, sir.
Like, it would be such a stupid thing.
And the show would do it because, once again, you fucking predicted exactly what Arya would do last season. You shut your mouth, sir, about these predictions. You calm the fuck down. Maybe you're having green dreams or something.
Maybe. I mean, if somehow the essence of the Night King was transferred into that dagger and then gets transferred out of it when she stabs Cersei. Oh.
Jesus Christ. Speaking of Arya, by the way, I'm glad you brought her up. Arya and the Hound are traveling together again, probably for the last time, and they're going down to King's Landing. I'm going to go ahead and assume once King's Landing gets all chaotic with battle, they're probably going to try and sneak in. He's going to go face off against the Hound, and she's probably going to go look for Cersei. Everybody's expecting her to kill Cersei, But if you notice, Dany's eyes were pretty green this episode.
Yeah, I mean, everybody expects... This is the problem. Is everybody expects Jaime to kill Cersei, and everybody expects Arya to kill Cersei, right? Cersei is the last name on Arya's death list. Well, I mean, Ilan Payne, but they forgot about Ilan Payne.
Wrote him off.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, he got the actor got cancer and then survived the cancer, and then they decided not to hire him again. I don't know, but nonetheless, like Arya, like the name Ilan Payne, like she stopped saying his name on the death list. She just kind of was forgotten. She hasn't said her death list in forever.
But all right, let's get the fuck out of the north. Let's get to Dragonstone, and for some reason, what's that guy's name? David Benioff wants to argue that Dany just forgot about Euron's fleet. And to be fair, whatever happened to scouts? This is what really kind of annoys me about this episode. Whatever happened to scouts? Remember back in season 1 when Robb Stark's forces caught a Lannister scout, and he's like, it looked like he was counting. How far did you get? 20,000, Your Grace. They used scouts before. Scouts are a thing, and nobody's using any scouts whatsoever. And in fact, for episode 1 of season 7, you also predicted this scene. You said that wouldn't it be great if, like, because remember episode 1 of season 7, Dany gets off the boat and she just walks into Dragonstone, and you said, wouldn't it be funny if, like, Cersei sent an assassin there hiding behind a rock with a crossbow?
That would have been the best. No, but the scene, I predicted the entire. I predicted a ship-bound ballista and them hiding behind an island and them sneak attacking.
When did you predict this?
So in my fixed series that I did about what I would have done differently to make Game of Thrones like start in the same place and end roughly in the same place. So it's like, well, we needed to have like Dany's fleet destroyed. So I was like, well, rather than it just being this random thing with Theon and Yara, I was like, why not have it? They leave Dragonstone for King's Landing, and then hiding behind the other island next to Dragonstone, where the Velaryons are from, Driftmark. The hiding behind Driftmark would be Euron's fleet, and he would have a ship-mounted ballista, and their whole fleet would sink Dany's fleet, and the ballista would freak out Dany, and she would flee, allowing like the fleet to be destroyed, and then they would kill Grey Worm.
Ooh.
And that was my and to put them in the same place, I would say capture Yara. And so roughly the same thing happened, right? Mm-hmm. It was they were hiding behind the island. They shot their ballistas. Like Dany got freaked out and fled. The fleet was sunk, and they didn't kill Grey Worm, but they captured and killed Missandei.
Yeah.
So it was almost the same fucking thing. It was pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. You could be a writer for Game of Thrones.
Right. I mean, some people are like, "Oh, do you think they saw your video?" I'm like, no, they didn't. But it's just a coincidence.
You could be a writer, whether that's a compliment or an insult. Take it however you want.
Yeah.
But no, that was kind of dumb. I like how Benioff knew people would get annoyed, so he goes, "Well, she forgot about it." I mean, did she?
It was really stupid. So at least in my creation of that scene, that would have been the first time that Dany was sailing and didn't realize that there was an Iron Fleet, and she would have been ambushed. This is the third time her fleet has been destroyed by Euron. Like, I don't know how she keeps getting fleets, but it's the third fucking fleet to be destroyed.
Like, I would have loved it if she had a pact with Salador's son, and this is the third time his fleet got fucked up, and he just quits.
Like, it's just... like, at that point, just be like, okay, look, they should have known that they don't have any power on the water, so don't go on the water. Mm-hmm. Like, that was really dumb. Really, really dumb.
Well, to be fair, though, I mean, she could have just... I put this up on my Twitter and Instagram. She could have just flown around them and attacked them from behind. Because the ballistas can't really turn that way, or otherwise they'll risk destroying the mast.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And a lot of people were like, well, those ballistas are far too strong. They're like blowing up ships in the water like more than cannonballs. And
Not really. I mean, cannonballs would do more devastation, but I feel like the ballistas did enough devastation.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty insane. Mm-hmm. Now, it is really weird that they're able to pinpoint and kill Rhaegal, and then when she comes about and starts flying right at him, and she's much closer, they somehow miss her. But when they shot, they went 1, 2, 3, got 3 right into Rhaegal, and then like 20 fire at her, and they all miss her.
But, you could argue that maybe the first time they were trying to get her, but they got Rhaegal instead, and they were. I guess you could also argue that they were kind of flying, and they were. I'm trying to defend it. Give me a minute. Let me think about this.
Well, they do say that there's a phenomenon in war where people don't actually want to kill somebody else, and so they're subconsciously like missing. Mm-hmm. Because they actually. But at the same time, like Euron doesn't seem like one of those people.
He really doesn't. No, he really doesn't. I would also want to argue that maybe he's just trying to kill Dany and not Drogon because he wants that dragon for himself.
That's an interesting idea.
Because isn't that what he wants in the book? He wants Dany to blow on that horn so the dragons will be under his control.
Yeah, that would be something, to have a dragon for himself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he'd be the ultimate, like, king of the seas and the skies. It just, Cersei can have the land, I guess, for what's left of it. Right after Dany loses her dragon, Varys and Tyrion again are having that conversation about, like, Varys is flip-flopping on his allegiances. He was banking on Dany, and she loses a dragon and starts to get really pissed, as well as she should, and all of a sudden he wants to switch and maybe perhaps put Jon Snow on the throne.
Yeah, but he was doing it before that. They had the same conversation twice. They had the conversation before the attack, and then they had the conversation after the attack. So it's not really that because she's lost her dragon. It's just that he suddenly doesn't like Dany and thinks she's crazy. And there was a lot of sexism in what he was saying. Like, oh no, it's important that Jon Snow is a man so that people will support him because we're going to need these lords' support.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be fair, he would have a better argument by saying that Jon Snow has that charisma and that country boy charm, which is a thing. To be fair, one of the greatest powers in the world is the ability to just make friends easily. Let's be honest. Making allies and friends very easily, that is better than any dragon, because having people back you, just without even trying is fantastic. And if Varys just said that instead of just saying, well, she seems a little crazy, every ruler I've ever served that talked about destiny was crazy, and Tyrion even defends her in a fantastic way. She went into a fire, didn't die, and came out with 3 baby dragons. Like, can you really blame her?
Yeah. Can
you really blame her for thinking to be the dragon?
And one of the problems as well as had Varys been saying, oh, the lords would never follow like a female ruler first season, maybe I would have bought that. But they've been following Cersei for the past few seasons, and it hasn't really been that much of a problem. I mean, she went and burned a sept and is a woman, not even in the line of succession.
Well, let me defend Cersei here. This is true. However, how did Cersei get Randall Tarly on her side? Promised to make him Warden of the South. And how did Cersei get Bronn to agree to this crap before the whole thing? Promised to give him Riverrun. Cersei, they probably don't want to follow her, but at least they're getting stuff out of it. Dany isn't really offering to give anybody anything at all, with the exception of Gendry, which, I mean, I guess she should be trying to make alliances with people. She should be actually going out of her way. She should be doing what Sansa and Jon and Davos did.
I mean, Jon got Warden of the North,
Well, I mean, that's I mean, if you fuck the queen, you should get something.
He was king, right? But it just doesn't. It seems like the kingdom is now used to a female ruler, and the other thing is of course he backed Viserys, which makes no fucking sense. If you're gonna say, she's too crazy, you're like crazier than Viserys,
But what I was saying was Dany should be doing what Sansa, Davos, and Jon did in season 6, was go around gathering allies. showing up with the dragon, showing that she can do this.
Yeah, but it seems like Dany kind of realizes that the end of the series is coming. She doesn't have the time to go around and get allies, unless you want to put in a 5-year gap.
And speaking of the end of the series, at the end of the episode, we get a very brutal scene. The Mountain beheads Missandei. By the way, did you notice how Dave and Dan say her name?
How do they say it?
Missandei.
Missandei. Oh well. I mean, everybody pronounces things.
I don't know, Varys. What do you think about that?
You think it's Varys or Varys?
I think it's Varys. Yeah, isn't that what everybody calls him, Varys?
I don't think everybody calls him anything. I think everybody calls him something different.
As long as it's not Patar Baelish, I think we're okay.
Patar. Yeah, but if there were, this is the sad thing, all right, about Ilan Payne. If there were a time to bring that actor back, it would have been at the frickin' scene that they're trying to parallel it to.
True.
I mean, the actor's still around. He's still alive. Bring him back. Have him be the headsman.
At least say Ilan Payne died during the attack on King's Landing in season 2. At least say that.
Yeah, something.
Mm-hmm. But no, we get the probably the dumbest scene. I want to say this is probably close second. The first is Arya killing the Night King. That's the number one. This is close second. You have them right there. You have 40 ballistas trained on them. Right. Just shoot.
And they're not very far. At first you're like, well, maybe they're really far away, but they can hear Missandei say Dracarys, right? And I was sitting there looking at it. I was like, okay, if they open the gate right there, I suppose they could run for the dragon, and Dany could get on her dragon and fly away, and then her Unsullied are killed.
Right.
Unless, or a few Unsullied could get on the dragon. Dany might be able to get away. Maybe she's right outside of ballista range, though. On that ship, on Euron's fleet, the ballista range seemed frickin' far. Mm-hmm. But say ballista range can't reach that dragon, they could at least send out people to kill her guards.
But why have the dragon there in the background? What I would do is I would just show up with the Unsullied, and which, by the way, she has 50 Unsullied. You should see. Did you see that?
Yeah, I know. There was nothing.
There was nothing.
They could have at least opened the gates, run down. Dany would have made it back to her dragon, but they would have captured Tyrion.
Well, what I would do is I would have Dany come out, and then don't even show up with the dragon. If they don't release Missandei and they kill her, have the dragon swoop all the way down from up top at the very fucking top position. The ballistas can't turn that to do that, and burn them all right there. Save the war. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
Have it come from the very top. So up top that the sun blinds you if you try to look up.
That is the thing. Yeah. Just get right in the path of the sun.
Mm-hmm. Which is what it looked like she was doing in the preview when Euron is kind of covering his eyes because he hears something in the distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The whole scene seemed CGI. It seemed fake. It seemed cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And
I just don't like what they're doing with Cersei. That she's practically won now. Dany's forces are super depleted and exhausted. I didn't even see any Dothraki anywhere. When she came to the Dragon Pit meeting, she brought her full force. And obviously she doesn't have that anymore. Cersei has barely exhausted anything. I think Cersei has lost Casterly Rock and a good chunk of her forces during the Battle of the Caravan. But apparently, as long as she holds King's Landing, she wins? Hmm?
Yeah, it's weird. As long as she holds the capital, she can, and it's well, there's other times in history, where people just had the capital, Rhaenyra just had the capital during the Dance of the Dragons for 6 months. And, it didn't mean very much. So, I don't know. Yeah, they make a big deal out of that Iron Throne. The physical Iron Throne, not even the title.
I mean, it makes sense, though. It's why Stannis went for the capital first. He didn't prolong... He tried not to prolong the conflict. He wanted to get these people removed as soon as possible. Because...
So he could declare himself king.
Right,
and
because holding the throne...
Have the upper hand on Renly.
Yeah, holding the throne really does count. So... Yeah. I guess that's what they were trying to do. But no, that was just a really stupid... Cersei just comes off like a fucking Bond villain. It's so cringe. Like, killing your friend in front of you. Like, after she killed Missandei, she should have just opened fire.
That's true. And also, a lot of people said, like, you know, they were pointing out that isn't it weird that people washed up on the beach and none of them were captured or killed, but they somehow get this translator. You know, they don't get the general Grey Worm, they don't get the advisors, Varys and Tyrion, they get the translator, the least important one.
Oh, and I love Tyrion's plan here. He goes, well, we shouldn't, you know, bathe everybody in dragonfire and have them burn alive, but we should have them slowly dying by starving them to death.
By starving them to death, yeah. So after I said, so on my video, I was like, has anyone ever done this in history? Like starved out a city to save the civilian population? And so a few people sent me like a couple times in history where this was actually done. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, fine. But 99.9% of the time, you just freaking attack the city.
And let's be honest, though, because this is something that really kind of annoys me, is that Varys is clearly going to be the traitor. People, there have been, like, these asshole throne channels that have been making, like, who's the traitor in Dany's camp? How are you going to say who? You know who it is. You read the leaks. You and I...
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be... I think Tyrion is going to turn him in and execute him.
Right, which is weird because Dany should execute Tyrion. He's the biggest asshole he's the biggest asshole in the show right now. I'll say Jon Snow's a douche for spilling the secret and, you know, not petting Ghost, and Cersei's a dumb asshole for not shooting them right there, but Tyrion has been fucking her over consistently throughout the series. Had she just done what Olenna said and just be the dragon, all her forces would still be intact. She would have, you know, wipe this out. Yeah, a few people would have died, but this is fucking warfare. We're not playing a game here. Well, we are technically, but you know, this game is a deadly one. So,
and really, like, the smartest person in the show right now seems to be Qyburn. He can just invent anything. Euron is not, you know, I mean, except for being fooled over Cersei's pregnancy, he's doing pretty well for himself.
It's a shame. Someone was telling me how, like, they should have had a scene where Tyrion knows she's pregnant, like, and Euron they should have had a scene where the camera cuts to Euron going, what? How does he know?
Or eyebrow raise or something.
Eyebrow raise, because that means that, you know, there's always a chance that he's gonna betray her, blah blah blah. But yeah, overall, I don't want to say the episode was a train wreck, but like they're really doing a lot of dumb things, and I feel like that's because they want to get to the finish line very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like George gave them a bunch of plot points, and they're like, well, we got to fit in all of these plot points. Mm-hmm. You know, that, like, it doesn't, and they're just jumping to these points, and the characters don't have the right motivation to get there. Like the Hound going to King's Landing. Like, he doesn't. Since when does the Hound want to kill his brother now? Like, killing his brother is this abstract thing that he's been holding his entire life. Why now? Like, what has the mountain done to him recently?
Right.
Nothing. So.
Oh, and before we wrap it up, they did kind of close out very quickly one plot line that was kind of in the shadows, the whole Lord of Light thing. There's a conversation between Tyrion and Davos about, like, what happens to Melisandre, what did the Lord of Light do in all this, what was his purpose, what was the meaning of all it, and it just gets brushed under the rug.
Yeah, lampshaded, right. He's like, who knows?
Who knows?
Well, that's it.
People are speculating that Kinvara or other Lord of Light priests are going to come over, because we did see, I think in season 5, that there was a fairly large group of people that were supporting Daenerys and Volantis.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any scenes, right? I mean, the idea, I mean, it could be, you know, they're losing the war, and then they're losing the battle, and then, yeah, Dario and Kinvara and all of these zealots from the east, like, arrive and save Dany. Like, that could definitely be something.
It could be, and quite frankly, I thought we were going to get an Avengers-style, like, final battle where the new Prince of Dorne, Yara, Sweet Robin all arrive with their forces, and they all, like, you know, commit forces, but I guess maybe the twist would be that they're all really committing their forces to Jon, but that wouldn't make any sense because Yara...
And then Dany tries to run for the throne, and they're like, okay, we'll get her through, and she's trying to make it. Cersei's trying to run for the throne. Whoever sits on the throne is queen.
What the fuck? is this? What did I tell you?
Like,
Stop making these predictions. What did I tell you? Stop it. But no, like the whole Avenger-style opening ending wouldn't make any sense because why would Yara or the new Prince of Dorne give a fuck about Jon Snow?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the whole Dany going into the throne room that has been foreshadowed back in season 2 during the House of the Undying vision.
Yeah, it's true, but and the whole thing was destroyed though, and it was snowing. Better start snowing.
It's fucking. This is so awful. Like at the end of season 7, the snows began to fall, and then this one it's just sunny as fuck. It's like spring.
I know. It's. Oh God.
I know.
Oh,
Preston, you want to wrap this up?
All right, sounds good.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, leave your thoughts down below. If it sounds like we're defeated, it's kind of because we... Just a tad bit. Like, you would expect the final 3 episodes to be amazing. So I'm still holding my breath. I'm still, hoping the final 2 episodes will be fantastic. But so far, season 8's at the midpoint already. It's not as great as we thought it would be, but it's something.
It's certainly something.
It's always great. If you're gonna dumpster dive, maybe you can try to find something in there that's worth of value. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.